Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. We ready, guys? Good evening, everyone. Welcome to meeting 3 of the Central and Northeast Area Middle School Boundary Study here at Parkville Middle School. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Welcome to our committee, our observers, and our staff, and our team from Cropper. Just a few housekeeping tips tonight. Please make note of the emergency exits. In the event of an emergency, like a fire alarm, we will access the closest exit, the same door you came in. We can take that right out to the parking lot. Please make sure you did sign in tonight. There's a sign-in sheet for committee members and a sign-in sheet for observers that helps us keep accountability in the event that we do have an emergency. Our restrooms are through the door here to the left and through the next set of doors on the left-hand side. We have some water and snacks. Please avail yourself to those. The least we can do for having you out this evening. Big reminder is that we are live streaming tonight, as we are every night, thanks to our BCPS-TV team. Really important for the folks that are viewing at home that they be able to hear you. And I know you have loud voices, and I know it's very convenient to talk to from the tables, but in order to capture a fair and recordable sound, it really is important for you to step up to the microphones if you would like to make a comment. So please, if you have a comment, just be recognized by the speaker and make your way up to one of the front 2 microphones. We really appreciate it, and it really is vital for our folks at home to be able to hear and understand and get the communication and feedback from the committee. All our materials will be posted, all the materials the committee is using tonight, all the maps, all the handouts, the presentation, will all be available on our website. You can access that from www.bcps.org. If you take the resources button at the bottom of the page, you can then follow that to the boundary study for the Central and Northeast Area Middle Schools, and all our recorded boundary study meetings, all our public comments that we've fielded. I think we have about 4 or 5 that we posted last week, and all the materials from every meeting are all there. Thank you very much, and with that, I'll give it over to James from Cropper GIS. Thank you, James.
Yes. Thank you, Chris, and again, thank you, committee members, for coming out tonight. Those here as observers and those that are viewing virtually. We have a few things we want to get into tonight, some new information, statistics. We also have 3 new draft options for you to review. Options 1 through 3 are still on the table, so we have options 4, 5, 6 that are new that we want you as a committee to delve into and start evaluating. Upon reviewing some of the statistics related to those options, we'll have you break into your small working groups to start looking at some of the advantages and limitations of each option and how well they adhere to the primary and secondary considerations. Following that, we'll have members from each group come up to the mics, please, this time, and give your opinions on each of the additional 3 draft options we have here tonight. And then following that, we'll adjourn. So by the end of tonight, we want you as a committee to be well versed on the enrollment statistics and the draft option statistics. We want to have a good conversation about some of the feedback on each draft options that each small group develops, and then share some of your advantages and limitations of that that each group has regarding each of the new options that we have here tonight. So just looking here at the timeline, this is the 3rd meeting. We're getting to the midway point throughout this boundary study process. We have 1 more meeting scheduled for February 22nd. And then following that, we'll have our public information session on March 8th and March 9th. At that public information session, we look to bring forth 2 to 3 options for the public. And then following that public information session, we have 1 more meeting before we as a committee need to make some decisions on an option to recommend to the Board of Education, which is scheduled for May 2nd of 2023. So just a quick background on what drives the need to evaluate the middle school boundaries in the central and northeast area. There's a construction of a new middle school that is going to be located on King Avenue, has an anticipated opening in the 2024-25 school year, and it's expected to accommodate 1,364 students. We also have another project in the region for Pine Grove Middle School. They are constructing an addition to that building and is looking to increase the capacity of that school from 1,197 up to 1,283. There's also a few of the participating schools within this region that are over capacity that could use some relief. And then there's also, we want to look to accommodate the ESOL strategic plan of returning ELL learners to their home schools. Currently, the ELL learners in this region are attending Dumbarton Middle School and Dundalk Middle School. So looking at we have the two project schools, the new Northeast Middle School. It's going to be located, which is currently Golden Ring Middle School zone area. Bounded by Parkville. And then we also have the Pine Grove addition that is going to occur to add an additional amount of seats to this region. And then we have 9 other participating schools. So this boundary study encompasses a grand area within this district. And there's plenty of schools within the region that are expected to be able to provide relief. Looking here at the current enrollment statistics, you'll see the 10 current participating schools, and you'll see here that there are a few schools that are over capacity, including Golden Ring Middle School, Middle River, Perry Hall, and Ridgely are a few. But there are also other schools within the region, for example, Stemmers Run Middle School, that have some additional capacity to provide relief to some of the neighboring schools within this region. So just looking at the boundary study objective, our objective is to establish a new attendance area for the new Northeast Middle School, as well as expand the attendance area for Pine Grove Middle School as its addition is being constructed. I'll breeze through the primary and secondary considerations. Those are governed by Rule 1280 from the district. We look to have efficient use of capacity at all the participating schools, provide some balance and utilization for all the schools within this region. And we also want to look at maintaining or increasing diversity among the schools to reflect the diversity of the region and the entire school system. Some of the secondary considerations, as you guys are well versed as a committee, looking at maintaining the continuity of neighborhoods, minimizing the number of times any individual students are reassigned, being cognizant of the impact on transportation and pedestrian pattern for students, trying to clean up any feeder pattern splits and make the continuity of feeder patterns whole from elementary to middle and middle to high school. And then also looking at some of the geographic features such as railroads, creeks, and major highways, and also as well to support the ESOL strategic plan of returning ESOL students to their home schools. So just a quick follow-up. There was a question during meeting 2. How does September 30th, 2022 official enrollment compare to the current enrollment? And this table here kind of highlights what the current enrollment as of February 7th of 2023 is compared to the September 30th, 2022 enrollment. You'll see here that there isn't a great difference between 2022 total enrollment and the current enrollment as of February 7th of 2023. We're looking at a difference of 7 students. This just helps support the fact that the 2022 enrollment is reliable data for us to use as we evaluate options within this region. Another question we had from meeting 2 was how many students currently attending private schools may return following the completion of these capital projects. BCPS as a district does not have that data to estimate this number. You as a committee member and members of the community can definitely factor some of that in due to your conversations with some families within the region that may consider that as you evaluate these options. So in meeting 2, we had our small group exercise where options 1 through 3, the baseline options, were presented to you as a committee for you to evaluate. During that time, based off of the summary from all small groups, option 3 garnered the most attention of options 1 through 3 during our last meeting. There were some suggestive changes to option 3 that you as committee members expressed. Some of those changes were trying to further reduce the elementary to middle school feeders. Currently for this region, there's 27 splits from elementary to middle school. So one of the driving factors in secondary considerations is trying to reduce the amount of students that are split as they migrate from elementary school to middle school. So that was a factor that helped drove, that you as a committee asked to be implemented in the new options that are going to be presented here tonight. Also, keeping Dunfield community in one middle school. That community is planning block, I believe it's 616 through 619. It's located in this area that is bound by Pine Grove Middle School and Perry Hall. So there were some suggested changes for some committee members of keeping all of those 4 planning blocks together in one middle school. And then there was also a factor of reducing the commute time for some communities, as some students still had to travel a great distance to get to their middle school. So before we review these options here tonight, we always want to remember that everything is draft, nothing set in stone. There have been no decisions. These options that you see here tonight are subject to change, and new options can and probably will be drafted. So in your packet, you should have 8.5 by 11 maps of the new options, as well as the previous options. So options 1 through 6 are in your packets. These options are also on the interactive web map. You can get to that web map via www.croppermap.com/BCPS-CNE 2023. There, it's a very good resource to be able to click on and off the options to compare to how the boundaries look from where they currently are and how each option compares to one another. There's also copies of all the handouts, including all the statistics and small and large format maps that are on the Boundary Study webpage that you can reach via bcps.org under the Resources tab. So again, as I stated, we have 3 new options. Option 1 through 3 are still on the table, but we have options 4, 5, and 6. That these options were developed from the feedback from you as the committee members that you had discussed during the previous 2 meetings. One of the driving factors for these options are keeping the Dunfield community together. You'll see here in option 4 and 5 that community is kept together and will be attending Pine Grove Middle School in options 4 and 5. And then in option 6, that community will all be attending Perry Hall Middle School. Another driving factor with these options is the Greenlee neighborhood. I believe that is planning block 319 and touching planning block 404. That neighborhood, there was some suggested requests from some committee members to keep that community together, and you'll see that there in option 6 that entire community will be attending Lock Raven Academy in that option. Some other things that influence the drafting of options 4 through 6 are reducing the number of elementary school to middle school splits. You'll see in that feeder pattern table of the total amount of splits for each option that number continues to decrease in option 4 through 6. And then all schools fall within 5% of the 87% study area average in these options. So we're definitely attaining the goal of making efficient use and balance of the capacity for all schools within the study area in these options that you have here tonight. So just looking, you'll have a table that shows you the current enrollment and estimated enrollment for all options at each school. And you'll see here the orange column here shows you what the current enrollment number is. And then you'll see what that number changes to for total student enrollment in each option at each given school. And then you'll also see capacity over under table and utilization table for each school in each option. This just takes that enrollment number and divides it by the option state rated capacity for that school and turns it into a percentage. And then you also can see how many students over or under capacity each school is in each option. So you'll see here that the balance and utilization for all schools within the district get closer to this the district average of 87% in these options. Another table you'll see within the handout are the demographics percentage numbers. This gives you an idea of the demographic makeup of each school, where they currently are, and where they are in each option. When evaluating this and looking at the changes that each option presents, you kind of want to see where each school is currently when it comes to its demographic makeup. And then you want to see where it changes to and how well it reflects the district and study area as a whole. So do these percentage numbers in each option move closer to that bottom total average row, or do they move further away? And that's something to evaluate as you look at some of these options tonight. You'll also have impact tables. So in impact tables, just show you how many students are going to be impacted by the changes that are suggested in each draft option. So you'll see here that these options do impact a grand amount of students, as we are constructing a new attendance zone for a new middle school. But you can get an idea of how many total students are impacted in each option, and where how well that number, or how high that number goes. You'll also see tables that show you where the current boundary and then where the boundary is in each option, and if that boundary changed. So as you review these impact tables, you'll see rows of green to show you no change. That means that no students will be impacted. And then you'll see rows that are beige. These show that there's going to be a change in school attendance for a select amount of students. So for example, it shows that Golden Ring Middle School in option 4, there's going to be 696 students that currently attend Golden Ring Middle School that will be attending the new Northeast Middle School in option 4. The total table just tallies up the total number from all beige columns in each option. So option 4 impacts a total amount of 1,805 6th through 8th grade living attendance students. You'll also have feeder pattern tables, and these just outline what percentage of students will be attending a school as they migrate from elementary to middle and middle to high school. You'll see here that currently there are 27 splits from elementary to middle school within this study area, and there are 10 splits from middle school to high school in this study area. You'll see that these options look to reduce that total number of split. Here in option 5, for example, it shows that there are only 14 elementary to middle school splits. And then you also can look here at the percentage to see what percentage of students are being split, and what is the total percentage of students that will be going from one elementary school to a middle school. We look to have a very balanced split so that kids are migrating to the next grade level with familiar faces. You'll also have a table that outlines the current walk zones and how many students fall within it, and if those walk zones are impacted. You'll see here that all walk zones are preserved. There is a change in the total number from current walk zones to the option walk zone, and that's because the new Northeast Middle School has an expanded walk zone compared to what Golden Ring Middle School currently has. But you'll see here that in all the options, we are preserving any student that lives within a walk zone so they can continue to walk to their home school. Do a quick overview of some of the advantages and limitations of each option. Some of these traits are familiar, as some of these options all look to adhere to the primary secondary considerations. So therefore, you'll see some familiar advantages and limitations between all options. Looking here at option 1, Perry Hall does get its relief. Balance is provided to all schools, as all schools fall within 6% of the 87% average. We are reducing the splits in this option from 27 down to 19, but a limitation with this option is we are increasing the middle school to high school splits, which is currently at 10, and it goes up to 14 in option 1. Looking here at option 2, you'll see the new Northeast boundary area extends a little further and encompasses more of what is currently Middle River. But you'll see here in option 2 that Perry Hall does indeed get its capacity relief, and balance is provided to all schools within the district, as they all fall within 6% of the district average. We are reducing the elementary and middle school splits in this option down to 17 from 27. But some of the limitations with this option is it increases the middle school to high school splits from 10 up to 13. And this option 2 impacts the second most students of the 6 options, with an estimated 2,078 6th through 8th grade students that would be impacted in this option. Option 3 here, which was one that the committee favored via last meeting, you'll see that it impacts the least number of students of all the options at 1,472. Balance is provided to all the schools within the study area, as they all fall within 7% of the district average. Splits are being reduced in option 3 down from 27 down to 18. But some of the limitations with option 3 are it increases the middle school to high school splits, which is currently at 10 up to 14. Option 4, which is one of the new options here that we have tonight. Some of the advantages with option 4 is you'll see that it impacts the third fewest numbers of the 6 options at 1,805 students being impacted. It's tied for the second best balance, so we're getting even closer to that district average for all the schools within the study area, as they fall within 5% of the district average of 87%. We get the splits, the elementary school to middle school splits down even further in this option from 27 down to 14. But one of the limitations, again, with this option is it increases the middle school to high school splits from 10 up to 14. Some of the changes you'll see here with option 4 is you'll see that the Lock Raven zone extends a little bit north into the Ridgely attendance area. And then you'll also see that the new Northeast Middle School extends a little west down here into Elmwood, and then Pine Grove extends a little bit more east to encompass all of the Dunfield community. Looking at option 4, there's not a big difference between option 5. There's not a major difference between option 4 and 5. The big thing you'll see here as I flick back and forth is that Pine Grove extends further north up into the Cockeys Mill Middle School zone area. And that move helped give great balance to all the schools as they fall within 5% of the district average. It also increases the middle school to high school splits, which is currently at 10. It gets up to 12, but it's the lowest increase of all the options. So this is the one that's a little bit more cognizant of how the feeder patterns look for middle school to high school compared to the other options. But one of the limitations with this option is it impacts the third greatest number of students at 1,859 students potentially being impacted. And then option 6 here, you'll see this option creates the best balance among all the schools within the study area, as they all fall within 3% of the district average of 87%. So that means that the percentage of the highest school within this area is 90%, and it only gets down to 84%. So it's really providing a great balance of utilization for all schools within the study area here in option 6. You'll see that there are a great number of changes as the Pine Grove area extends a lot further north and west up into the Cockeys Mill and Ridgely zone. And then also you'll see here that Parkville extends a little north and picks up some communities that are currently in Pine Grove. We also get Dumbarton involved a little bit more in this option, and, which brings their percentage estimated utilization up to about 87% in this option, and they pick up some of Lock Raven as well. It reduces the elementary school to middle school splits from 27 down to 14 in this option, preserves all students within a walk zone. But some of the limitations with this option is it increases the middle school to high school splits from 10 up to 14, and it impacts the greatest number of students of the 6 options at 2,391. So we'll be collaborating within our small working groups. Each group will have about 45 minutes to review the draft options, spend about 15 minutes per new option. You have markers and Post-it notes. Encourage you to write, circle, highlight on any area of the map that you feel needs to be addressed. After each group reviews the options, we'll have members from each group come up to the front and tell the rest of the committee their findings and observations. Try to have a discussion guide, one person to keep everybody on track, make sure all voices are heard. We have a reporter, one person that's going to come up at the end to share the group's findings. One person, the scribe, who can write down any questions or concerns each of the group members have. And a parking lot attendant, somebody to record any unanswered questions that couldn't be answered right here in a moment. When reviewing these options, you just want to look at the strengths and limitations of each option, any concerns, challenges, and how well do they adhere to their primary and secondary considerations. Without further ado, I'll let you have at it. We have plot maps at each group. Help spread them out to get a good look at each option compared to one another. And if you have any questions, please ask me. Mr. Matthew Cropper is here as well as any of the strategic plan officials that can answer any questions you may have.
see if 15 minutes is good. That's right, yes.
All right, committee members. We're going to wrap it up here and start sharing some of the results. Committee members. Committee members. Can you wrap up your final thoughts here? Group yellow? Oh, by all means. If you can get your attention to the front here. Oh, group red, red group.
All right, guys. So our main takeaways, we thought map number 6 was a hot mess. I think I coined a phrase from my daughter and said, hot dumpster water. A TikTok phrase. Our basic takeaway on our map was that it seems like the best way to sort of distribute kids in the central area and to help Perry Hall would be like things that are below 695 to kind of shift those boundaries east. And then that way it gives us more opportunity to shift the northern boundaries a little bit west in order to help Perry Hall. So I'm not sure what our hugest takeaways were. I guess in the central area, we were thinking how Dumbarton, again, this was brought up last week, there's not a lot of development in the Dumbarton zone. So taking Dumbarton's boundary a little bit east so that they could take some from Loch Raven. Goucher and Loch Raven Boulevard are a really natural boundary. They're very busy streets, and when the bus doesn't show up or somebody misses the bus, trying to cross those streets is dangerous, as was brought up last week. So if you did that, then you could shift everything else below the Beltway a little bit to the east, and then the opposite above, if that sort of frees up more space in Pine Grove. We also didn't love the idea of moving this piece above 695 to Loch Raven, rather keep it at Ridgely and because there's still development going on with Mays Chapel and whatever that Lutherville development that isn't official, but everybody knows it's gonna happen. And then our takeaways for the bottom, where all of those maps kind of looked similar. I don't want to say the bottom, but the lower quadrant, everything kind of looked similar. And we felt a little bit better about the commute patterns for the red, brown, and blue. I'm sorry, I can't remember which middle schools we're talking about there, but the new one, and yeah. Anything else? That was our takeaway.
Thank you. That was good input. Do we have another group that wants to come up and speak on any of the new options? By all means. What group is this? Green group.
So we might have the unpopular opinion, but we went with 6 because we just went hard with data. Each of the options, the split from elementary to middle school was 14, 14, 14, so we dove in a little bit deeper, and the 6 option had at least 30% of one set of kids going together. The other options, you had like 3% or really low percentages, which one member of our group had her daughter, was only 4 kids, one of 4 kids that went somewhere, and we were talking about how that could be a little bit more traumatic than at least 30% of the school going together. We also talked about how we felt this one did a really good job of blending the communities that we wanted to keep together. So, oh, and then also the really important part is I'm from Perry Hall, and we're always construction going on. So in this option, from the second meeting, we kind of tried to pinpoint where we think the new developments would be based on the information given to us at the second meeting. And for option 6, out of the 4 new developments in this area, 2 was going to go to Pine Grove and 2 would go to Perry Hall. In the other options, pretty much all of them would be in Perry Hall. So even though you're taking some of the students away. Once these get up and running, we be back up to our high numbers again, where we stand.
Also, the
You gotta
issues-
go on the microphone.
Oh, yeah. The primary issues with 5 that we saw that we kind of liked, but the Hartford Hills split and the Ross Hill split, that was the one that was not 50-50. It was like 14 to 85. Those were the 2 schools we were concerned about not splitting them correctly or fairly. And then I kind of like Lock Raven going up to the reservoir and not going all the way over to York Road. Like I felt like York Road was a little too far for Lock Raven. So that was our takeaways.
Awesome, thank you. That's great input. Do we have another group that wants to volunteer to come up and share some of your viewpoints? By all means.
All right, so this is option 5. So we kind of like this one the best, I guess. We felt like it seemed to have the most balanced as far as keeping some schools, some already existing areas intact. For example, if you look at Lock Raven Academy, they had planning block 411, 412, 414. Those are some really large planning blocks, a lot of dense community there. I think it was option 6, had them shifting over to Dumbarton, and it's like, it's just kind of a wonky. They go to Lock Raven anyway, like just let them stay. And it kept the percentages for all the other schools relatively close. The only downside was that Perry Hall went from 92%, but to be honest with you, option 3, option 4, had them at 92% as well. Option 6 had them at 87%, but I don't know. It felt like the best approach across the board. The only concerns that we had for some of them, one had Pine Grove expanding quite a bit into the Cockeysville area, and that transportation time. I would really just like to see some data on what that looked like a typical bus route and how long it would take them to get from there to there. I know Hereford kids are used to quite a commute, but.
Without the stops, we just did from the furthest north to Cockeysville, Ridgely, and Pine Grove, and it was 17, 18, and 19.
Yeah, but with stops, like what? Yeah, when you're picking up 60 kids, what does it look like? So that was kind of the concerns we had. And then the other one we talked about. I don't think magnet programs are going to change from school to school, but we weren't 100% sure. But otherwise, I feel good. If I'm like, which one you got to take? I'm going option 5.
Absolutely.
Fair
Thank you. That was great input from Group Orange. Do we have somebody from Group Blue that wants to step forward, share your group's findings? Oh, you could come up. Yeah. There's no rules with this. If you need me to hold one, I'll hold one as well. Step to the mic here. Would you like me to hold it?
Yes, if you don't mind.
Yes, absolutely.
So good evening. In full transparency, we struggled to really, as we dug deep, we kept asking more questions. As we asked more questions, we had a hard time determining major differences within them. And I think one of the things that we looked at that we were just trying to figure out, when option 6, it looks like you take the most out of, which one is 6 over there? Is that 6 here? This is 6. You take the most, like you cut Perry Hall, a big part of it, but it's only what, was it 2%? Not even 2%. So it didn't seem like it made a huge difference in terms of population. So we eliminated 6, and then we were looking then at 5. then we brought 6 back. So, you know, we're trying to maybe see how we can, you know, how do we modify 5 into 6 and vice versa? So we really, again, going back and forth, we're unable to come up with any kind of consensus. You know, in here, was it more than 2% in option, or no, sorry, was it in option 5, did we get it under? It's 92?
In option 5, and then it's 87% for Perry Hall Middle School in
And
option
87.
6. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So what are the positives that you liked about option 5 versus and the positives you liked about option 6, and we can kind of give the committee a good understanding of what you liked from each option, and then maybe there's a potential to merge those in the future.
And that's what we're looking at. Well, we also were looking at the number of elementary feeders, and I think was it 5 had fewer?
Option
Or was
5 and
this
6 both had 14 splits.
14,
It's currently
okay.
27, so they
It
both.
was in high school. It wasn't a big difference.
Now, high school, yes. Option 5 increased the splits, which are currently at 10 up to 12, and then in option 6, it increased it from 10 up to 14. So a few additional splits in option 6 for middle school to high school feeders.
Okay. Did you want to add anything with 5 or 4?
I don't know.
No.
I don't, yeah.
No.
I liked what, was it Red that came up and said, was it you guys that were like, move this, oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, yeah, I got you.
Move this way and this way. When you said that, that's kind of what we were trying to get to, but we weren't that fast because there was a lot of colors and lines. But yeah, I think it just looks like we helped Perry Hall because it colored a lot of that box, but it really didn't, and there's so much land that's being developed. We're just gonna be back here.
Great input. Any other thoughts to share in regards? Okay. You can have somebody come up. Thank you. Yeah, you can take it back. Thank you, sir.
One of the things that sort of concerns me about a lot of these, but 5 is a very good example. It uses it crosses for Ridgely, then it crosses the 695, and it's a very broad expanse of space that are not unified communities. I mean, to take a bus across that is really like, I'm a person who lives in that vicinity, and I have my social ties, the government services were of a different precinct. Everything is very different. So this idea of crossing over the Beltway feels like it is trying to stitch together things that are quite different. And I think that that's not good for a kind of cohesive kind of school community.
Good point to note. All righty, is that, think group already share? Think this is the last group, yellow group? Well, to piggyback that, do you want to come back up with some maps and give some input on some of the other options from your group here? Think it would benefit the rest of the committee. Oh yeah, go right ahead.
So I just want to say that we didn't think the middle school to high school thing in the, I think map 6 had more of them, was a big of issue because when they go from middle school to high school, they also branch out to different private schools too. So going from and they have more social media options. So we weren't concerned with the middle school to high school splits as much as we were with elementary to middle school splits.
That's a good point. I can review her. She was saying that that a lot of students that go from middle school to high school, a lot of them end up branching off to a lot of private schools as well. So she was saying that her group weren't as concerned about the middle school to high school feeders as they were the elementary to middle school feeders. Got you right here. I'll hold that. You got it? Yep, I got you.
All right, we spent a lot of time looking at the 3 different maps. I think when you guys said about the moving east to move west thing made a lot more sense, kind of like what you guys were saying, like it kind of clicked into place for us a little bit. The one thing we liked about 6 is it looked like it balanced things out a little better. The one thing we didn't like about 6 is it displaces the largest number of families. We kind of talked about how like people are going to get displaced and they're going to be upset no matter what happens, but this is a really big group of people to change around. So the level of anger and upset and frustration is going to just be a lot bigger in number 6. Although to me it looks like it makes a lot more sense in terms of just like where everything goes geographically, like looks like it makes sense. It looks like a lot of the feeder elementaries kind of stayed together a little bit, and most importantly, kind of Perry Hall got a lot more relief in 6. And I feel like that's one of the most important things about it is when you've got a school that's that big and that overcrowded, famously so, that we all know that that school is like that, that, you know, that needs to be a big piece of this. So that's what I would like 6.
I get it. Wants to say something. Yeah, absolutely.
So the other piece with larger groups of families being displaced is that it's larger groups being displaced together. So I think one group had said that instead of just maybe like one child, it's a larger group. So they're having that experience of going to a new school together in larger groups versus smaller groups. The thing we did make, we made a planning block change. So these 4 planning blocks here originally were part of Golden Ring Middle School. And they were the only ones that were not going to get the benefit of being displaced from Golden Ring and going to the new school. So we added these 4, we suggest adding these 4 planning blocks back in to the new Northeast Middle School. And then it would take the capacity based on the numbers presented to 91%. So it's still a reasonable amount, and they get the benefit now of having the new school since they are going to be displaced from Golden Ring Middle. So that was it.
Great, yeah.
Thank
It's a good idea and great input. Thank you, Group Yellow. Are there any other committee members that have a viewpoint, want to share an opinion on a particular option? It would be valuable for the rest of the committee to hear any viewpoints. I spoke to a few of you personally. Absolutely.
So this was our group, and they already spoke on the idea of moving things east if it's below 695 and west. And I just wanted to point out that one of the concerns that I pointed out, because I've studied a lot of stuff about the magnet programs, and when we had our magnet audit, is that Lockhaven Technical Academy has 4 magnet programs, and the only magnet middle school programs that the kids in this neighborhood can go to, that they can get a bus to, is their own zone school. So having this rural area that, if it ever gets developed, could be moved into here, could threaten our magnet programs, and that creates the only equitable opportunity for these neighborhoods to compete to get into high school magnet programs, because it's the feeder for those. So I wouldn't want to see a large rural area compromise the 4 magnet programs at Lockhaven Technical Academy, knowing that this urban neighborhood, that's the only real equitable opportunity they have to compete for high school magnets, is to have these magnet programs in their zone middle school.
Thank you, Lily. Thank you. That's a good perspective. Certainly valuable. Are there any other committee members that want to give a viewpoint, an opinion, share a thought?
I know I sound like such a one-note whatever, but I do want to put a plea in to all of us. When this process is over, we need to talk to the the county council about the APFO report, because every other county in Maryland has much more strict guidelines that manage the development so that the infrastructure cannot keep up with the rate of growth. Our county is very, very lax. Someone was talking about Lutherville Station. They can put in a high 400 units and insist that there will be no children living in those buildings, and the county will not stop them. There's no way to stop them. So that's the first thing. And then the other thing is, our state representatives passed some legislation a few years ago that allowed counties to charge fees to developers that would cover the cost of building infrastructure of schools. And our county passed a version of that that has so many loopholes, you cannot believe it. But developers are able to develop in this city, in this county, as much as they want, it seems, without taking any responsibility for the impact on children, right? Because children don't vote and children don't get to be represented in the county council. So when we're done with this process, I encourage all of you who have, the good courage and intelligence and civic spiritedness to be here to also pick up those issues and really work on it. I've been a gadfly with these folks complaining about the numbers, but I know at the end of the day, it's not really their fault. The numbers are given to them by the county council, and the county council says it's okay to plan something 3 years down the road based upon numbers that you have last year. So really, this is an occasion for us all to look at those bigger issues, because they will continue to plague this county and it will continue to make all our schools overcrowded and unmanageable.
Thank you. Great perspective. Are there anybody else who wants to give an opinion? Tonight, I think it was a very productive night. I heard some great conversations, some great recommendations. If there's nobody else who wants to speak tonight, we will take all input tonight here. We have one more meeting on February 22nd before the public information sessions on March 8th and March 9th. So we will look to make some decisions at our next meeting on options that we want to bring forward to the public. We'll take the input from tonight to see if there's any modifications between options 1 through 6 to make that we will evaluate at our next meeting. But without further ado, if there's no other questions or concerns, we'll adjourn here tonight, and I look forward to seeing you all in 2 weeks.